as well. Araxis for $5. Cartman has joined forces with KK. You only think you've seen pandering. Together they will take over the Panderverse. Thank you, Araxis.
My favorite part about all of this is that the idiot access and mainstream media think that anyone who disagrees with them is Cartman, and they fail to understand that at the end of South Park joining the Panderverse, Eric Cartman, the most loathsome character on television, shakes hands with KK, and they think that's a win. They think that they've really gotten us this time. I don't think you guys have watched much South Park.
Parker and Stone have gotten clever with how they do these things, and they know how to ride the fence, but they also know how to tell the audience exactly what they're trying to get across.
We are the average
individuals could turn around and stab the other in the back too. That's what I was waiting for. One of them too in that episode.
We are the everyman. We here on the panel. We are the Kyles. We are the Stans. We are the ones who don't go watch this stuff.
They're forgetting one other important thing, Pro. And that is in the Panderverse, in the actual Panderverse, the version of Kathleen Kennedy over there is Cartman. Is a Cartman. So like the fact that individual over there is that bad means that our version here is just as bad. Like that's the thing. They let her off easy at the end, but I think there's going to be a heck of a lot more to this in the next episode.
Secret for all the audience.
Hold those
so they don't get sued. Holding.
Yeah, I was going to say hold those because I do want to have a discussion on this. South Park, the Panderverse, and we talked about this on the Friday night show. Of course, we had a smaller audience because it's not our usual time. So we're going to talk about it here again because there's a lot of people that did not catch the Friday night show. And then, of course, we've all had a chance to maybe see it a couple of more times if we've wanted to. We've all had a chance to let things settle in. Some of the news that has come out since then. In fact, let me pull up the Gina Carano quote. But Mike, your thoughts on Panderverse?
I thought it was hilarious. I saw it twice. I didn't see it Thursday night. I saw it yesterday and then again this morning because I enjoyed it so much. I thought there were some shots that say what I'll say our side of the entertainment aisle. Mm-hmm. I do think though that KK got the worst of it. And what I found most fascinating about the whole thing is that KK, essentially the way the show was written, from where I sit, she was sort of positioned as being the responsible party for probably pretty much everything that we've seen in gaming, movies, TVs, and so forth. The whole, making it a multiverse thing sort of made her the point. But I thought Bob Iger got off easy, and I think they should have scoured Disney in general much more than they sort of zeroed in on KK. But those are my 2 cents.
Well, I think you make a lot of good points, and I do agree that they didn't let all the YouTubers off the hook, but I think they made some valid criticisms of some of the YouTubers as well. Like,
well, they go too far.
Yeah, I mean, when you overuse the word woke, maybe for every single thing out there that you don't like, and I'm serious that I'm not trying to pick on any one individual. This is just a general statement. Or if you can't express in context exactly, why something is not working or why this doesn't make sense, which is why I think the episode was so good, because they just made the simple point of, look, with PC Principle, well, what's wrong with this? Why can't Eric Cartman be a black woman? And the response from the boys were, because that doesn't make sense, because it's stupid. You're just taking something that already is and sticking a black person in it. That's dumb. That's not creative. That was really the gist of the episode. But let me go ahead and pull up. Let me grab this. I'm going to grab my clip file here for this before we go to Gina's quote.
Do you want to let Tom and
I was about to say Tom.
Chime in?
Yeah, Tom Culture. You guys want to add to that while I'm pulling this up?
Oh, I think everything they did with the episode was brilliant. Pro came in with his take, which is 100% right. You could clip the whole show. It's a series of clips. There's so much dense information there that I showed it to a family member that's a normie, but somebody who's a big fan of the show, and they weren't aware of it, and then they started to laugh at it, and I left them to it. I've now watched it 3 times. It's that brilliant, and I mean it's the brilliance of South Park returned from the best days possible, and they have a way of pointing out all of the things that are wrong with something, and they don't necessarily have to go out and do it in the most direct manner, which is one of their geniuses. I love it. Good stuff.
Tom?
No, I think it's great. I don't think they were. I mean, they did, like I said, they did poke some fun at us, and it's true. There's some YouTubers and pundits who just constantly go off on the woke business. I'm not going to say that we don't. And that was more than fair play. And of course, I'd expect them to go after every side and every angle. But at the end of the day, I think the people that got off the lightest would have been Bob Iger and a little bit of Kathleen Kennedy. But I hope there's more to this. I do hope they pick up with this. The only downside is a lot of the general public are going to have no clue who she is going into the episode. The upside is afterwards, I think they're going to. And this is getting a lot of attention. And I think Gina Carano's post is something we really should kind of disseminate and go through because this is and I'm sure you plan on it. And that's
got it kind of up backstage right now.
Bounce off of this. But no, like at the end of the day, I've watched it twice myself. There's tons of little in jokes. I had my buddies like, I have no idea who Kathleen Kennedy is. I had to explain it to him. But after that, I mean, he totally understands where the jokes are coming from the episode and how basically Randy is kind of the 30-something-year-olds who don't know how to do jack now. You know, that
CNN chyron at the bottom was so funny.
Yeah. And I mean, look, here's the thing. And you're right, Tom. Not many people out there, apart from now, we'll say not many, everybody watching us right now knows who Kathleen Kennedy is. We feel like everybody knows who she is.
No,
that's not true. Even fewer people, probably not even half the people who know who Kathleen Kennedy is know who Bob Iger is. So, and that's part of it, right? And I don't even know how much maybe Matt and Trey really understand about Iger in terms of his issues at the company. Because Kathleen Kennedy is much more of a headline figure, right? She's out there. She's at the Star Wars convention. She's at Star Wars Star Wars Celebration. She headlines the stuff. You know, she promoted all this stuff over the years. Indiana Jones. I mean, her face was all over it when Indiana Jones was coming out this summer. Kathleen Kennedy. Bob Iger really wasn't brought up in that, right? Everybody was looking at Kathleen Kennedy. I mean, this was her thing. This was her baby. She put herself out there in the ether. She made herself a target for somebody like Parker and Stone. But let me
make 3 points in just a second.
I was just going to say they used. I had said this joke before that maybe Kathleen Kennedy had been replaced with some alien, just like Tim Burton and Michael Jackson were back in the day. Because how could this woman go from making, and producing some of the biggest films of all time, the movies that, we remember all throughout our youth, to this? And that's kind of where I think Matt and Trey are also coming from. So I'm not saying they listened to us, but they definitely came from the same place. And this whole idea to use the multiverse, I thought was brilliant. But that's all I want to say about it. Go ahead, Pro.
Several points that I think are important to notice. First thing to notice is that Bob Iger is the one who brought Kathleen Kennedy to the Panderstone in the special. Bob Iger at the end, when she says that they're going to do original content that no longer panders, Bob Iger goes, Sure we are. I suspect that they plan to come back to this. I think this is the beginning of a saga. Right. Joining the Panderverse, I think, is not the end of this at all. Another point that I would make is that throughout the show, of course, Kyle and Stan are the voices of reason. If you pay attention to the episode, Kyle and Stan are never on board with Disney. They're never on board with the multiverse. They are never on board with Kathleen Kennedy. Cartman is the representation of going too far. So where Cartman goes too far is that he literally begins to hallucinate and to fear Kennedy on a personal level. And he begins to attack her personally with 12,000 pieces of hate mail. That's what they're criticizing. They're saying that if you go from disliking the work product of someone to disliking someone's existence, then you're Eric Cartman. And I totally agree with them. Now, the funny thing too about this is that as you're watching the episode, I think that they do a fantastic job of tying this all into artificial intelligence. And they're actually making the argument that Disney, by virtue of just pandering nonstop with all of this woke ideology, that they have been producing something that is equivalent to what can be made by artificial intelligence. That's how these themes tied together at the end, is that the Panderstone is producing that which AI could beat anyway. And they're saying, drop all of that, and you human writers will be better than AI. That's the message of this intro, but I think it's a firing salvo. It is not the end of South Park taking on Disney. I also, I'll wrap this one up fast. I think Trey Parker and Matt Stone are interested in doing more Casa Bonita restaurants, and I think that financially they need Panderverse to do well. I don't see why Paramount and South Park would not come back to this, considering the massive success that this has been.
And I think from a logical standpoint, you have to imagine. I was thinking about this driving home before the show. When South Park, when these guys make an episode like this, my first reaction, if I'm Bob Backish and Paramount and all these guys, is, good Lord, do we really want to put out what amounts to a hit piece against our biggest competitor? And then part of me wonders, you know what? If I was Parker and Stone, and I've been doing this for, 26 years now, and they've been through everything they've been through with Scientology and everything else over the years that they have broken their foot off into other people's butts like that, they probably had something in the clause. Yeah, we'll take your $900 million, and by the way, whatever it's what we produce, short of us putting X-rated material on the screen or something like that, it's going through, and you're not going to fight with us.
Well, I've heard Tom mention this.
Yeah,
I've heard Tom and you mention this before, but like on Mead, when we've been on, he mentions they've got FU money. I mean, they really do have FU money, so they can do what.
Well, like that's what Paramount did, is give them $1 billion almost for this deal.
900,
and it was over a 6-year deal. So they're not getting it all at once. So what Trey and Matt have done, or Trey specifically, has gone and gotten an $800 million loan for Casa Bonita. So he's basically took that money and put it into that business. And they also have the Warner Brothers deal too. Let's not forget about that. See, that's why the Warner Brothers and Paramount are fighting each other in court right now.
That's why I don't think Paramount would let Warner Brothers hit piece go out, but they can hit Disney because they're not.
But I guarantee you, Trey and Matt put in their clauses that they have complete and utter control over everything, because that was one thing that they kept wanting to leave, because Comedy Central is getting more and more corporate. And I'm sure a lot of this episode comes from them getting a lot of studio notes and shit over the years too. And I think the straw that broke the camel's back for them was the whole Cartoon Wars episode, I think. Where, if you guys remember, it was episode 200 and 201, which is almost impossible to find unless you got the Blu-rays, because any episodes that had anything to do with, Allah or anything like that got removed. And that was one of the main reasons why. And because of that whole thing with them, because Comedy Central lied to them, they said that, oh yeah, we'll premiere it, completely uncensored, and then they still censored it on them, and they were pissed.
Censored it. Yeah, they got mad. And they dragged Family Guy into it, which I thought was hilarious.
That was the best part.
That was the best part. And
the manatees.
Because that's how I feel about Family Guy. I get it. If you like it, it's funny, but the whole show is just a bunch of, remember the time, or this is like the time I had that job.
Right. Make sure you're subscribed to Valiant Renegade and join us every Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern for the live show.